Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 26 of Are We There Yet? Work It. We are going to be talking about oral today. But first, we want to say congratulations to March winner of the Vibratex toy, and it's Iris Stubbs. Congratulations, Iris. Reach out to us either through an email or which is emailaudi@gmail.com. It's all below. You can get all the information. Reach out to us on Instagram or however you feel comfortable, and we will get with you to talk about which toy you'd like. It's very exciting. Don't forget, everybody, to subscribe, like us, and follow us on Instagram for a chance to win a Vibratex toy. Yay! Well, hello. I'm your host, Susan Ruth.
And I'm your host, Mara Adelman, and we are two humans having the real conversations and raising the questions we all have about where is there when it comes to dating, relationships, and sex.
Yes, indeedy do.
What's your there looking like, Missy?
What is my there? I'm ready for spring to really be sprung, and get more sun than rain. It's been a wet one this year.
Hallelujah, though. Hallelujah. We got some water. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really have anything new to report this week, so I'm going to say, take it away, Mara.
Take it away. My there, same kind of concept. Like, I'm still gently using the apps. We did a couple weeks ago, we talked about apps and dating. Gently using the apps. Haven't really met anybody that I feel like going on a video or in-person date with. Getting out more because spring has sprung. So that's fun. I was laughing the other day because I realized it feels like it's looking for a unicorn. And I was like, well, unicorns don't exist. And so I was like, no, it's like looking for a rhino. So that's what I try to put out to the universe, is that rhino feeling, which will make sense when I tell you this silly story. I take my dogs 8 years ago to this little park in Napa. I hadn't been to this one. It's out in the woods. And there's a pin, and I see this huge thing in there. And I'm like, there's an animal, like an exotic animal in this pin in this park. And I go running forward. I'm like, oh my God, it's a rhino. It was a huge statue of a rhino. So realistic that my silly brain for a minute went, oh my God, they have a rhino in the park. I don't know why. Since then, whenever I'm like, what am I looking for? I'm looking for that rhino feeling, excitement, enthusiasm. I haven't found it. When I find it, I will go on a date with that person and I will report back.
And then you'll call them Rhino, and you will live together in the zoo forevermore.
Forevermore, happily in the zoo.
Well, I'm excited about this episode, oral, all things oral. Let's get into it.
Oral. So this is the most interesting thing I came across when I was doing the talk for oral, that people with vulvas, people with vaginas can have them either be more forward facing or more rear facing. And I had no idea. I have done a million pap smears on women at the clinic, but by then they are laying down and their feet are in the stirrups. And so I never paid much attention. But if you want to know if you're more rear facing or front facing, stand in the mirror. And if you can see most of your vagina, including the slit part, you are more front facing, which means oral sex is a little bit easier to perform. And you may not need to put a pillow under you. I am more rear facing. I'm going to start sticking a pillow under myself because it is more, that's where all the nerve endings are. You want to have more access to the nerve endings for pleasure. Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
But hold on.
Are you more, is it all very frontal, or is it a little more?
I think it's a bit front facing.
A little less between the legs. Yeah, a little more front.
I mean, I'd say my pearl is present and accounted for.
Yes. Yeah. So that's fascinating. Just something to think about. If you have a vulva, go out there and look and say, oh, then I should put a pillow under myself with oral sex. So that was my fun fact of the day.
That is a good fact.
I know. So before we get into specifics on stuff, I just want to talk about things that I have noted and kind of the general feeling I got after getting ready for this podcast.
Okay.
Is that there are a lot more penis owners getting oral sex than there are people with vulvas or vaginas having oral sex. And a lot of that is stigma. So we're going to talk about those reasons. It kind of plays into all of this. So pretty much Cunning Linguist, oral sex on a person with a vulva. It is stigmatized. Women can stigmatize, people with vulvas can stigmatize themselves because they are much more worried about presentation, look, odor, but also many people performing oral sex may not feel as comfortable with it, because there's a lot more parts than there are for people with penises. And also, if you watch porn, the porn industry, we're actually in 2 weeks, we're talking about porn. The porn industry, a lot of porn, and Susan has told me that she's found better than that, but a lot of it is, hi, nice to meet you, blow job, women gets on her back, sex. There is no touching of the vulva or the vagina. There is no oral sex.
I must be watching real different when I do watch porn, which I'm not that big into it, but when I do, there's a lot of fingering and oral sex on the person with the vulva. So,
which, as it should be, because as we've already talked about in past episodes, it takes people with penises maybe 7 minutes average to have an orgasm, and women can be anywhere from like 10 to 20. So having oral sex and fingering and all of those things is going to get that orgasm gap a little more in line, right? But unfortunately, there is, so we'll do each one at a time. There's the presentation or the looks. And so for a lot of people with vaginas, women, people with vulvas, if you watch porn, most of the hair is shaved off. Not everybody wants to shave off all their hair. You do not need to shave off all of your hair. It doesn't hurt to do a little trimming around.
I look at my vagina and my vulva like a Marine, high and tight. But she's still got hair, but she high and tight.
High and tight. I like that. And everybody gets to do what they want. Some people love that 70s more hair thing. Mm-hmm. But the problem is I've talked to young women, mostly in the clinic, who are like, I don't want to look like a prepubescent girl and have no hair down there, but I feel like that's what I'm supposed to look like for sex and to receive oral sex. And I'm always like, no, that is not the case.
You don't have to have a bleached asshole. You don't have to be shaved, totally gone. You can be a normal, like have normalcy. I've never met a partner who's ever, whether I've gone between shavings maybe, and they're like, birds are flying out. They still are down there enjoying themselves. If you feel bad, leave a little jar of toothpicks by the bed, but don't worry so much.
Okay, you are talking to somebody who has a super dislike of any kind of hair in my mouth, as most people
well
do.
It chokes all of us, let's be honest, but it's not a deal breaker is what I'm saying.
It is not a deal breaker. It's going to happen. And you're right, we don't have to have bleach assholes. You don't have to shave off everything. Also, there is a huge uptick in young women getting labioplasties because the women in porn have short, look different because of lighting. And so if they have labia that are a little bit longer, go cut them off. I'm mortified by that concept. And so looks can be a deterrent for some women to ask for oral sex because they don't feel confident in how they look down there.
Yeah, it's a real bummer.
So if you can't enjoy it because all you're thinking is, how do I look? How do I look? You're not going to enjoy it anyway. And so I just want to encourage people, as we both are, it doesn't matter.
One of my college roommates, she was obsessed that her vagina smelled weird. She was so traumatized by it. And we were like, you haven't even had sex yet. It's probably not an STD or anything, because sometimes it's important to track vaginal odor because it could be the sign of an STI.
Yes.
That's important. Yes. Or a yeast infection or whatever. But she was obsessed with it, and she would put baby powder, which of course now we know that's a big no-no. And so finally we were like, let us sniff you. And she was fine. She smelled like skin,
Sniff her through her pants, let me smell your underwear. Yeah.
My hair, I don't know what's happening over here, but I'm just gonna ignore it.
Because we're on the hair topic.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh.
I do find that to be sad. So we're going to talk about odor in a minute. I think we're done with hold on. I think, pretty much. But the look thing is sad to me that people are worried about how they look to the point where they want to enjoy oral sex. But odor is a huge piece of it. And so we talked about kind of pheromones are different on everybody. If you really like somebody, if things are slightly off, you're not going to care as much, right? Things can be slightly off in people. So she might have was anything off with her when you smelled?
Nothing was off with her. She was just hyper-focusing, but everything from diet, hydration, medication, there's all sorts of things that can make your flavor change. So this is not proved by science, but I'm a big believer in eating pineapple every day and staying hydrated.
Hydration is hugely important, and especially for semen when you're giving oral sex. Pineapple supposedly helps the semen taste better. So it's not unfounded to eat certain things that might make you taste good.
Yeah, and what do you got to lose unless you're allergic to pineapple, right?
Right. But so we'll go down the odor thing. So pretty much the vagina is a self-cleaning oven. People leave it alone. No douching. Do not use. The best way to get odor is to use floral tampons, floral panty liners, douching, because it throws the pH off, and you're going to get an increase in things like Gardnerella, which is bacterial vaginosis. And so even though she'd never had sex, people who have never had sex, I see lots of young girls, 12 under, that have bacterial vaginosis because they're using bubble baths, they're using scented perfume products, and that's all it takes to slightly throw the pH off. And now you've got too much bacteria, you've got odor. If you have yeast, you're going to have way less odor. You're going to have maybe like a thicker whitish discharge and itching, and you're not going to want to have oral sex anyway because you're going to be like, I am so itchy down there. Please leave me alone.
Well, and you don't want somebody down into business when you're dealing with a yeast infection.
That is a good point. Like if you feel like things are slightly off, just tell your partner, not a good time for that. Thank you.
You can also online on Amazon buy pH strips.
Yes.
And you can keep track of your pH. See how it go for a month. Go every day and check with these little strips. It's cheap. Tear them off. Take a Q-tip. Do a little beepity boop, a clean Q-tip, and then put it on the paper, and you can track and see how your hormones change your pH throughout a month if you want, for science.
So a normal pH is around 4. Anything below might be yeast, especially if you have itching and discharge. Anything above is going to be possibly bacterial vaginosis and odor. So definitely using those strips when you're feeling symptomatic to kind of decide, can I go use the over-the-counter yeast medicine, or do I need to go see my doctor to talk about meds for bacteria? And of course, always checking sexually transmitted infections. However, it takes away part of the fun for the oral sex when you have to think about all of these things. But if you do feel like you're having some odor down there, tell your partner, you know what, not right now is not the perfect. I've done that. Like I've had a yeast infection. You know, we can have sex if you want with a condom, but don't go down there. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people get their balance thrown off from many different things. Also, I've had multiple people come into me thinking they have a vaginal infection because of odor. And it took me probably 10 years into medicine, so like 10 years ago, to realize what they were actually experiencing was sweat gland odor, because our apocrine sweat, so we have eccrine sweat glands throughout our whole body. You know, you get a little sweaty on your face, but your apocrine sweat glands that are in your armpits, anywhere where you have hair, your groin, your rectal area, tend to hold more odor because they're coming through a hair follicle. And so a lot of people are like, I get a little sweaty down there or smelly down there. And I tell them to use like a good soap and exfoliate that area. Like,
but don't put soap in inside of your vagina. If you have a vagina, it'll fuck up the balance. Like wash that out with just plain old water in the shower.
Well, you can
use
like
soap on the pubis.
Yes.
But not internally.
And you can even use soap like in your labia, like just don't go inside. Like,
be careful.
Externally. So again, self-cleaning oven, we don't need to be doing a bunch of fussing. I heard this funny term. It's called ADP, all day pussy, all day penis. And all I can think about is my time card at work, because it's called ADP to sign in, my time card. But essentially, go take a shower if you're going to have sex and get cleaned off. I do find it interesting that I was listening to this podcast and this came up. If a guy, let me see if I remember it correctly. If a girl is going, I'm not going to remember it right now. I'll find it in my notes. But essentially, it's that same concept. Like, you know, guys are going around. Women will brag. I'm so good at giving a blowjob. I'm really good at deep
throat.
Thank you. My brain is not working all of a sudden. Just like shut off. I apologize, everybody. But you don't hear a lot of guys going around saying, oh my God, I'm the best at Cunning Linguist. I'm the best at oral sex. They should be. Oh, I think it came to me. So essentially, a girl goes down on a guy and is giving him a blowjob, and she comes back up a little sooner than he would like. And he, in her head, is like, what's wrong with her? Like she should be finishing or doing more. A guy's going down on a girl or anybody with a vulva, and the guy goes down and comes up too quickly, and instantly in the girl's head, oh, I wonder if I had odor, or I wonder if he didn't like how I looked. And so it's such a different perception. Even on the links that we put down below, there's 2 links. One is I've lost it again. Reading. Mind-blowing. Sorry. How to give a good blowjob. And then there's one below it, how to give good cunnilingus. Even in these two articles, both from the same health source, when it came to the blowjob, never brought up STIs and never brought up cleanliness. But the very first thing in the oral sex for the woman was, don't forget to talk about STIs and make sure you don't have anything going on. And don't forget to feel clean down there. And I'm like, okay, I have dated multiple men who are non-circumcised. And if they don't clean under there, that smegma is nasty. Talk about all day penis. And so it's just such a fascinating concept that it's so separated out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, of course, it's always the women's fault versus I mean, that's just society at large. That's so interesting. I dated a guy once. He did not like receiving blowjobs because I had never done it to him. He said it made him feel, he was raised very religious. And he said it made him feel like it was degrading to women. So we worked on him and eventually he got over that, of course. But he was really excellent at oral sex, extraordinary, in fact. And the thing about sex that I think is so interesting is I think a lot of people fall into patterns. And like anything else, even the best pizza still tastes like pizza after a while. So, learn some new toppings, throw some pineapple on there, get some ham, maybe some diced onions. You know what I mean? Like and the guy that I dated that was so great at oral sex is he read up on stuff. He would be like, oh, what's the latest thing? How can I improve this? And he actually would bring new and interesting things to his maneuvers and his techniques. And I'd be like, oh, where'd you get that one? That was a good one. He's like, oh, I read that in Men Health, so it's good. Even sex can be boring if you do it the same way every single time.
Yes. So he would actually learn and then follow through. That's so cool. But
we didn't stay together, but he was really good at oral. So good.
I mean, so that is the key with all of these things, is continually learning, changing things up and communicating, because every female-bodied vulva owner wants it differently. I made the assumption that everybody likes clitoral stimulation. I've talked to people and they're like, no, it's too much. I'm so hypersensitive that I actually just want them to play with the labia and maybe put some fingers inside me. Just like everything else, completely dependent on the person. The only way you're going to know is to ask them what they like.
And be aware of the fingernails, please.
Oh my God.
With one errant fingernail and I'm shot out of the bed.
Yeah. Not only for please don't scratch me down there, but also you're going to carry things under your fingernails. And so I have a lot of women who come in for reoccurrent vaginosis, bacteria or yeast. And then it comes into the conversation of, have your man wash his hands.
Or woman, your person.
Oh, sorry, your person. I always go to the men because when I'm talking to my clinic people, most of them are heterosexual. So it's like, wash the hands, cut the nails, wash the other parts, the toys, the penis. Even so far as brushing the teeth and using mouthwash for people that are really sensitive and have a lot of vaginosis, because that all carries stuff, especially under the fingernails. Cut your fingernails. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other thing would be, speaking of new techniques, have you heard of the Kiven method? I cannot wait to have a partner to try this out. So we found a bunch of links. Emily is the best. Sex with Emily. She has a podcast. So essentially every single link is from her down below because she taught.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun. All of this stuff is oral sex secrets. It's all from her. But there's also a link down to this Kiven method. And so essentially, instead of having somebody be between your legs, they go horizontal with you. And so the reasoning for that is anybody with a vulva, the up and down, you're only hitting certain nerve endings. If you are sideways, you're going side to side, side to side, side to side, much easier. And you're hitting a whole bunch of more nerve endings because there's nerves in the labia majora, the labia minora, there's nerve endings inside, there's nerves in the clitoris. And she said, if your clitoris is enlarged enough and the person is going side to side, you can feel two little tiny, tiny bumps right there that are called the Kiven bumps. I had no idea. And so someday when I'm with a partner, I'm going to be like, let's get this on. I want to see if you can find my K bumps. And so try it if you ever have an opportunity, side to side. And we put links down below on how to do that.
I can't help but think you said labia minora instead of minora, and all I could think of was that would be one hell of a Hanukkah. But anyway.
Did I say menorah?
It sounded like menorah. I'm sure you said minora, but
well, I could have. I'm telling you, my brain, you know, when your brain is not perfect. I apologize today. My brain is a little wonky.
No, I thought it was hilarious.
Maybe a menorah. Everybody get out your menorahs. Let's get ready to rock. Huh?
Yes, get oral sex for 8 days and 7 nights or whatever.
Yes.
Anyway.
That is what I'm hoping for this year. Yes, please.
Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel.
Dreidel, dreidel. And some menorah time.
And also, you know, for your body parts, no matter what kind of body parts you have, I think one of the greatest things I ever did for my understanding my own body was at a yard sale. There was a makeup, like an old makeup mirror that was lights along, you know, here and there. Yep. And I used it starting in probably high school. I mean, I didn't have sex till I was 18, but I was aware of my body and stuff. I think starting in high school, starting to look inside of me. Like I'd sit on the bathroom floor, spread eagle, got the lights on, that makeup mirror, it had the super magnifier and the regular magnifier. And I would just look inside to see what it looked like. What does a healthy, normal for me look like? So that if something changed, I would recognize it. I want to know what, get up in there, feel around, see what it feels like. Some people go their whole lives never touching their own genitals.
Or looking at them. I would bet if we did a poll, 1 in every 10 women knows what they look like down there. Yeah.
I look like Jimmy Hoffa. No, I'm kidding.
Jimmy Hoffa. You look like Jimmy Hoffa down there. I feel like I know what I look like. I know what I feel like. I know what I'm supposed to smell like. Things are different. I know. But again, I have done 20 years of women's health and pap smears and, pelvic exams. Yeah. Again, I would say that only 1 out of 10 of those people have looked, and probably only my patient population is a bit different at the clinic, but maybe only, 60% have touched themselves. Yeah. And so getting to know your parts are important. Susan is correct. Also, if we're moving into the fellatio, the blowjobs, there's a whole list down below. This isn't a talk about like how to do things, but we linked articles down below on how to do them fantastically. But I'm going to cover some methods that work for all people and all body parts. And there's always analingus too. So the tossing of the salad, the rectal and the tongue.
Very popular with the kids these days.
Very popular with the kids these days. But if we're looking at methods that make everybody happy, is show some enthusiasm. And so if you're the partner giving the oral, try to be a little enthusiastic about it. Be a little bit verbal about it, because it makes the other person be able to relax into it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And try, if you can, to say little to the left, little to the right, not too hard, harder. And if you're giving, try not to take offense if somebody is giving you directions. If you're giving directions is a great way to eventually orgasm. It's okay to know what you like and what feels good, and to discover that together as a partnership is also really great.
100% true, which also goes back to, if you guys don't know each other's bodies well, doing mutual masturbation and showing each other what feels good then helps the conversations a little bit, helps like, hey, don't take it personal when somebody's like a little to the left. How are they supposed to be able to tell that your clitoris likes the left, not the right?
Yeah. And if you like it really hardcore one day, you might not want it hardcore the next day. It's really important to talk about stuff.
Yeah, constantly. And if it's a bigger conversation, so Emily, again, Sex with Emily, she always talks about having the right timing, tone, and turf. And so if it's a bigger conversation, like, I really don't like how you're performing oral sex, we need to discuss it. That is best done out of the bedroom. Know your timing, know your turf, but if it's in the moment, it's great to say, oh, that feels good, but a little slower maybe. Like they can be sexy conversations in the moment. And if the person doing it's like, oh, I like doing this to you, then the person's going to be a little more relaxed.
And respect what people say. I had a partner that I was like, oh, I'm not interested in the licking of my butthole. Doesn't interest me, at least not without preparation. That's something that I would want to talk about shower, make sure, you know what I mean? Just like, let's have some prep on that. And this person was going down on me, and then suddenly they licked my butthole, and I was like, I flew from them. I was like, whoa, like, what the hell was that? And they said, oh, I thought you'd like that. And I was like, we talked about this. That was like a blatant disregard for something we had covered and talked about. And they're like, oh, well, I thought maybe like I'm like, no, not somebody specifically says to you, I don't want this. Listen.
It feels
listen to them.
It feels really
super disrespectful, super boundary. Anyway, so listen to your partner.
Listen to the person you're going to be having sex with. The other thing is like, think about trying to be relaxed yourself, breathe, set the mood a little bit. Don't forget, like, this is such a big thing. I feel like it's everybody. If you watch certain porn, and again, we're going to talk about porn in a couple of weeks, it's very fast. Whether it's sex, whether it's oral sex, whether it's a blowjob, starting out a little slow and sensual is actually harder for most people, no matter what body you were living in. Kiss around the parts. Like, I dated somebody one time, and he would like literally like go from here to like just down and start like, and I was like, oh, can we just like connect a little bit and then slowly move into that? And so slow and sensual works better for most people, not everybody. Again, that's a conversation.
Yeah. The torpedoers are where you're like, I do have a whole lot of other body here. Like, I think Chandler Bing said it best on when Chandler Bing, I should say Monica said it best to Chandler Bing on Friends when she said, okay, so you go 1, 3, 7, 4, 7, 2, 6, 3, 3, 7, 3. And it was so good. Do you remember that episode? Yeah.
You have the best memory for these things. As soon as you said that, I can remember it.
Yeah. So
use the other body parts. They're there for a reason, and move in slowly. Kiss the inner thighs, right? And then if you're giving a blowjob on a male, but if you've got a penis person, testicles are a huge part of that as well.
Ask what people like. Absolutely.
And if you're giving oral sex, you don't necessarily have to do that deep throat thing if you're not comfortable with it. A lot of people are. Some people really like it.
Some people don't like oral sex at all.
There are men, like you pointed out, the guy you dated didn't want to be having a blowjob.
I did slowly help him feel better about that.
Which isn't just good that's good because it's a sexual activity that feels really good, and you were able to work
and because I said, trust me, I don't feel degraded. So we went from there. But if he really truly was like, no fucking way, I would have respected that, of course.
I think that's such a cool story. So on that note, if anybody needs help working through any issues they have around receiving or giving oral sex, you can find my lovecoachmara.com, schedule an appointment with me. I am happy to talk about all of it. And we can figure out how to make you feel more comfortable giving or receiving oral sex. Yeah. Because it's a fun part of sexual activity.
Yeah, I dated a guy once who he really only got super aroused if he was able to give oral sex. So that was such a turn on for him to go down on me, or on any woman, I would assume, that's really what revved him up and prepared him for the next bit,
Love that. So
everybody's different.
Everybody's different. I had a partner who really didn't like to give oral sex. And then I realized down the road, it's because he didn't have a lot of experience. So once we worked through that, he was happier to do it. I've also had somebody who was just I think it was after he watched the birth of his child, which is horrible. And then we were together down the road. I said, what is this? Like, I feel like you have a hang up. He wasn't able to vocalize it. I don't know. It was just a thing. And I don't think it was a me personal thing. It just wasn't something he felt comfortable doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So on that note, so many fun things you can do. Ice cubes and flavored lubes, and they make these special pop rocks that pop. Make sure they're all okay for the vaginal area as well.
No dairy, y'all.
No dairy. I don't want to. Also, don't forget, again, going back to that caressing, like that edging thing is kind of fun. Doing things over the underwear, kind of fun. Like it doesn't have to be torpedoing straight into it. But listen, and then listening to your partner's body language. So it doesn't have to be necessarily the verbal, although it's nice when people verbalize. I dated one guy who was silent when he ejaculated, sex. I finally was like, hey, I love it when it was hard because you can't tell if somebody's enjoying themselves. And so that was fine, to each their own. But I think he was a little shy about being vocal. I don't know. So listen to body movements and what's coming out of your partner's mouth. And you can get a lot of that without even having to have the communication, right?
Yeah, I have trouble with the dirty talk. I feel a little giggly. I feel stupid when I say things like, yeah, champ. I don't know. I that's something I need to work on.
I think I'm similar. I'm not going to be like, get down there and lick my pussy. The dirty talk is harder, I think. Yeah. But body language does it a lot of the time, right?
I dated a guy once that it was actually really super hot. When we would get into bed at night and we'd sort of kissy face and all that, he would take a cupped hand and just rest it between my legs and not do anything, but just in like the heat from his hand while I don't know, it was super sexy. Right. And he wouldn't even have to move his finger or anything. I was like, damn, that's erotic.
It goes back to that, like kind of relaxed, like not torpedoing in, just kind of slowly working in. Yeah. When we were younger, there was a lot of that over the underwear, dry humping. That's my favorite. Like, it doesn't have to just be like, and not everybody has to orgasm. So there are men with premature ejaculation, which is usually 1 or 2 minutes. And again, if you need help with that, I can help you work to maybe a little bit longer with a partner or communicating with your partner about that. But there are also men with delayed ejaculation. And that means sometimes during sex, or especially with oral, they can go up to 40 minutes without having an orgasm. And some of those men even have a hard time orgasming at all. And so don't feel like you have to give oral to somebody with a penis for like 40 minutes until they ejaculate, or you didn't give a good blowjob, or same with females. Like it's hard for me to have an orgasm, but it still feels great. And so oral sex, the outcome of oral sex is not necessarily an orgasm. Part of the sexual activity. So on that note, we have to talk about safety, of course, because as a medical provider, it's important. And so unfortunately, you can spread STI, sexually transmitted infections, through oral sex. And so the first one we're going to talk about is HPV, because unfortunately there's like hundreds of strains and there's a vaccine out there, but most of us have already contracted it at some point. 79 million Americans have it. 14 million people a year are getting it. And so
Michael Douglas got throat cancer from it.
That's why we have to talk about it, just because. And I actually, with that person in the open relationship, until I felt more comfortable with his honesty level, I performed oral sex on him using a condom. I was like, this is a lot for me to think about. I'm with you and your wife has a boyfriend. Okay, that's 4 people. But what about the boyfriend? And what about...
Yeah, it goes on quite exponentially.
Have more sex with somebody else. Once we realized that they were good about every 3 months. Sorry, if anybody's curious about that, go back and listen to the last episode where I talked about how I dated somebody in an open relationship. But once I realized that they were only really in that core little group and they did STD testings every 3 months, all of them, I felt a little more comfortable. But you can't know if somebody has HPV by looking necessarily. And so, or herpes by looking necessarily. So
many people are asymptomatic.
So it's perfectly okay to say, I would like to use a dental dam, which kind of covers the vaginal area and actually can feel really good, just like the underwear. Or I'm going to use a condom because we don't know each other very well. Yeah. And I don't want herpes and I don't want HPV that could lead to oral cancer someday.
I knew a guy that had got herpes on his hands because he had an open cut on his fingers when he had fingered a woman who had herpes, and she was virulent at the time. Yes. And they didn't know or whatever. And then he contracted on his hands. If you're going down on somebody that is having an outbreak and you get a herpes sore on your mouth, that's from that. It's not less herpes. I've given up caring about what strain. You're either going to get it here, or you're going to get it here. And every now and then you can get a herpes whitlow, which is when it's on your finger. Unfortunately, these things... Your eye. And then that can get into your eye. So not to make oral sex not fun by thinking about all of these things, but you do want to have the conversation with a new partner. Have you ever had a sexually transmitted infection? How often do you get tested? And think about dental dams and condoms when you don't know somebody very well. And people don't get tested for herpes unless they particularly ask their practitioners. It's not a test that's run. generally.
If it's a sore, you do a swab.
Right. But for I'm just saying, like, if you have a new partner.
No, that's true. Also HPV. The only test for HPV is doing a pap smear on a woman to get the cells to see if there's HPV. And the reason we care is that can lead to cervical cancer. The only way to know if a male or somebody with a penis has HPV is if they have an outbreak of genital warts. Now you know they have HPV. So again, you're kind of like playing Russian roulette, having oral sex with people you don't know very well. But I'm sorry, sex is supposed to be fun, and I'm going to keep having sex and having fun. I am going to think about the concept of using a condom if I don't know somebody as well as I might want to.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And there's dental dams also.
There's dental dams, which I have not. I'm going to actually buy one. I have some female condoms that with my next partner I want to try out. They go inside. And so it's a great concept to use for men who are a bit, not even older men, but any man that's having a little bit of erectile dysfunction. It's harder to use a condom, right? Because it just is. The condom falls off, things shrink. So using female condoms that goes in internally, now you can continue to have sex with somebody who's maybe not having like the as strong of an erection as they'd like. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually going to try buying some dental dams too, because I think it's fun to try all these things out if I'm telling other people to do it. And so on that note, Susan, you didn't say your thing you're supposed to say. I'll say it if you don't, because it's in my notes today, about how foreplay, the thing you always say, foreplay doesn't start.
What do I always say?
I'm sorry. You always say foreplay does not start in the bedroom. Foreplay starts at the beginning of the day. Foreplay starts talking about how I can't wait to like lick you later.
Yes, foreplay does not start in the bedroom. I'm a big believer in that. Yes.
You're so good about always saying that. And then it was funny.
And then I forgot.
No, you don't have to say it on every one, but it's funny.
And look how disappointed she is with me.
She's disappointed because she wants more oral sex.
She's half naked.
Half naked. She's already getting there. So yeah, I just, it's a good reminder that like, you need to get, especially people with vulvas and vaginas, get them a little bit warmed up. Men are like frying pans. Women are like slow cookers. It's a harder thing for women to get like, woohoo, ready to go, which is why there should be more oral sex and fingering and all of those things for women. If you're only learning from porn, unfortunately, you are not learning everything you need to know. And on that note, speaking of what we need to know, we took a quiz.
Oh, yeah.
And what did you get? Oh, it was an oral sex
quiz. Is what do you know about, or was it, what do you know about oral sex? Is that what the quiz was?
Do you know your oral sex do's and don'ts?
I got a 10 out of 10, baby.
Okay, funny enough, I got a 9 out of 10 because there was a question about everybody likes clitoral stimulation during oral sex. And some people just don't because they're hypersensitive. But again, me being less sensitive, I thought, oh, of course we do. That's the best part. Mm-hmm. So I missed that one. But go and take that test because a lot of those, and then it gives you really good information about oral, no matter what body you are living in. And on that note, in 2 weeks, we will be talking about all things porn.
Oh my goodness.
There's the bad and the ugly because there's a lot.
And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to have a guest who is actually in the porn industry. So, yeah.
Super exciting. Susan has contacts with people and we're going to have somebody come on and talk about the porn industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please share this and subscribe. Don't forget, we have the Vibratex giveaway every month until we run out of toys. So follow us on Instagram. Everything is below here. Check out the links, take the quizzes, do all the stuff. Thank you. I love you, Mara.
Love you.
Stay connected and be well, everybody.
Stay well. Take care.
Bye.